So we really appreciate our lawyer. We've been with Goodwin, and then especially the partners, and they have done great jobs, and then they are one of the top firms that in Silicon Valley we work with, not just for fund formation, and also their IP technology, and also for corporate, like from starting a company to actually exit your company, going IPO. So that's why we actually spend a lot of time in New York City these days, because we have almost 20 unicorns, and they're looking for exit solutions. So first and foremost, we would like to welcome Will to give us a welcome speech from Goodwin.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. Just out of curiosity, who here is actually from New York? And who's from out of town? Anyone from out of the country? Okay, well, welcome to New York. This has been a really exciting week. New York Tech Week has been way bigger than I thought it would. I was in Washington, D.C. for a decade, and coming to New York has been such a good opportunity for me. This is not my best picture in the world, by the way. I'm commonly told that. I never look like that. It's just some sort of Photoshop job. It's been with me across law firms. Let me give you a little spiel on Goodwin, and then I'll pass the mic to someone else. Goodwin is an 1,800 attorney law firm. We're based in Boston, but we're now across the world. We represent startups from 2 guys in a garage all the way to becoming a public company. We also represent investors, venture capital, growth equity, and private equity as well. So I'm a technology transactions attorney based here in New York. I love to connect with anyone. I love hearing about what people are doing, love being an advisor, and love making connections. If there's ever anyone you think I could introduce you to, we'd love to do so. I'm also going to be at Money 2020 this week in Vegas. If anyone else is going to be there, we'd love to grab coffee. Are you going to be there? Oh, yeah. You better find me. So we should all meet up, seriously. Stand to win. Yeah, so I'll pass this off to someone else, but welcome to Goodwin, and I think it's been a great panel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Will. You're welcome to stay here if you're interested, to stay, and then people can talk to you. Yeah, so next we have our partner, Barry Lee, and then he is actually recent, because today we actually met somebody in New York City. I mean, you'll never guess who you'll meet, but we met actually one of the manager at TrueBridge. So TrueBridge actually helped. We never met them before. We didn't do any PR. And then Barry was actually on my list. So TrueBridge worked with Forbes to actually put up those lists, and they have all the data of us. And we never met until today. So yeah, so that would allow Barry to actually give a welcome speech.
Thank you, Dr. Su. Thank you, William. And it is truly an honor to be here in New York, to meet so many wonderful people. We love New York, and we love the people in New York more. And it is a very exciting time. Generative AI is a huge topic. We invest quite a few companies, and they were not a generative AI. Somehow they become a generative AI company. Some of the founders are here, but they will introduce themselves. So we come here, want to meet people, and want to invest in people. So I just met some of the entrepreneurs here. So contact me, contact Amino Capital, and we would love to talk to you. We would like to invest in people from all over the place. Actually, we are very focused on minority, on immigrants. We have 17 unicorns, but 80% of the founding team has immigrants from minority. So we love people from diverse backgrounds, and we are a very diverse team. We have, but most of my partners has a PhD. So in that sense, we're not that diverse. But we love people who have PhD. We also love people who drop out. And we'll have a wonderful time together with a wonderful panel here. I would like them to have a chance to talk more. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Actually, this week we went to Google, and then a lot of the we really like Google, right? So Dr. Weekend Chu, one of our partners, started the Google image search, and then I think Hollywood, their narrative is, our beautiful actress actually inspired technologists in Silicon Valley to start awesome products. So that's why the story was actually covered on GQ. And then I think Google, they really contribute. So yesterday I was at Google and they have a really good event, and then they mentioned that in year 2000 they started to work on AI, and then one of our partner, Dr. Chu, because he actually started the Google image search, and later on Professor Fei Li, another immigrant, she actually built the largest database of photos, labeled photos, and then which is ImageNet in 2009, and then which with 15 million images, really high resolution, precise labeled data. And then fast forward now, we have BART, but also Rapid. There are last quarter there are over 400,000 projects calling large language model API. Of course, I would think most of the projects won't pan out. So maybe they launch, nobody cares. So it doesn't mean that a lot of people ask us, oh, are there a hype? But it doesn't mean that your project calling large language model and then you will be successful. Of course, last quarter there was 400,000 on Rapid alone. So that's why today we want to diminish, what is really, native generative AI startups. So that's why we're having an awesome panel today. Before the panel, we wanted to actually showcase some of our, investment and also the real native generative AI apps. So I would like maybe to give us a demo. Or you can actually just talk through what you're doing. Yeah.
Sure. Should I just touch my own laptop though, if I want to do it?
Sure, yeah.
Because otherwise I could end up logging in. It's,
Just do this.
works like this?
Yes.
And people in the back here?
Yep. I can also be very loud, so, my company, Neptime, we set out to bring programming to spreadsheets. And we launched earlier this year with our own spreadsheet. And today, I'm for the first time going to demo that it also works inside of Google Sheets. Because it turned out that even though our spreadsheet is much better than Google Sheets, people still keep using that. Silly Google people. So what we've built is this thing here inside of Google Sheets where you can go straight to a code editor. And if the Wi-Fi helps me, this will also, it's not going well. All right, there we are. And so it loads this Python code editor here on the side. Of course, we're talking about generative AI here. Our spreadsheets, one of the things, we're trying to make programming more accessible. And that has two things. One is bringing the program up to where people are in spreadsheets, because spreadsheets is the universal data canvas where people really know how to work with data. But the other flip side of that is, of course, that not everybody knows how to program. But thanks to generative AI, you don't really need to. So I can type here, get me a list of the fastest cars in the world. And with a little luck here, it has written a little bit of Python here that uses pandas, a popular data science library, and it pulls into the Wikipedia to get the fastest cars in the world here. And what's kind of neat here, I can now go into my finance people. Friends always tell me never to use the A column because that's for layout. I can now call our specific Python function here and type fastest parse. And it will now go ahead and execute that code. And now we have the So the neat thing about this is that I can now create a new sheet and do operations on this and just use it as a data source and do everything that I as a spreadsheet user know, and I don't have to know any Python at all. So that's kind of interesting. It works also the other way around. Let me see if I can demo this. We have. So this is a bit of a risk because this uses the API from our friends at OpenAI, and OpenAI is not always really fast, as you might know. And Google has this limit that you have to return a result within 30 seconds. So what's neat here is that this is OpenAI, the DALL-E API, running in the spreadsheet, and it's not, there's no magic going on other than the magic that we provide. So I can go here and show the code editor, and you can see how it is done. And again, it's actually really not a lot of Python here, right? So we have a call to the DALL-E API there, and all we do here is take the subject, action, and style, and create this prompt here, subject, action, in style. And then when I change this teddy bear here into a Christmas tree, it will make that call again to OpenAI and return an image. A Christmas tree playing chess as a Roman mosaic. So we can also do, do it in the Van Gogh style. And yeah, so it's a sort of neat tools that you see, except for that now you can just build it in your own spreadsheet and you don't need to do anything crazy. All right, that's a demo for now. Anyway, go check it out. It works in
Wow, so that's, maybe you can actually get connected? You wanna
Let's try it.
Yeah.
My
So
Wi-Fi
that's-
isn't working, so we
Oh.
might need a little help.
We can help you.
Want to connect
Yeah.
to my phone?
Guest, GP guest, yeah, okay. There was a card. Over there, actually. So that. So that's something called, generative AI native, yeah. So, yeah. It's a brand new company, and they were doing due diligence. Oh my gosh, they're eating our lunch. Yeah, due diligence. Yeah. Brand new. Yeah. So when I was talking to Anand, they were not ready. That's how fresh the company is. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Cool. I'm Anand. We're Dilly. So we automate due diligence for investors. Imagine private equity firms like Berkshire Partners use us to replace a lot of the work that their analysts would do day to day. So you can think of things like, getting new deals, screening them, understanding which deals are better than others, being able to compare against deals they've seen in the past, and also perform due diligence to make sure that all the numbers tie, there's no inaccuracies in the data so that they can make better investment decisions faster. I'll take you through a few of the workflows we have for analysts. So here's the dashboard for Dilly. Imagine you're an associate at Berkshire Partners. You have 7 deals waiting for you that you have to do due diligence on, and you just need to get started as soon as possible. So you can simply go in, create a new deal for any new deal that you have. We actually have integrations with everything from a fund's email to their CRMs, their internal systems, so we can pull all that data automatically, or they can upload it right here. Once you upload a deal, it becomes available in the deal database. So this is a database of not only the deals that the firms upload on our platform, but also every deal that the firm has seen in the past. All of these deals are all completely automated and structured here in this database. So all the columns that you see here are all automatically pulled from deal documents. And typically for a private equity firm, you'll see deal documents like a 100-page memo. That's where the deals typically start. And we're able to pull all these specific pieces of information from those memos. The firms can specify all this information for themselves. Let's say they want to pull EBITDA for all these deals. They can just tell us in semantic language actually to find EBITDA, and we'll be able to pull it for all these deals. And so I pre-uploaded a deal example here just for us to use. I'll just click into here. And so this is an example of a real estate private equity fund. This is a dashboard that we create for the funds. All of this information here is completely populated automatically. The analysts don't have to do any work here. It gives an overview of a deal, and we're able to add new widgets. They can specify exactly what they want to pull in terms of metrics, key flags, and similar deals. So for example, here are some of the attributes that we've pulled from this 100-page document for each of these deals. We also flag certain criteria for these deals. And so if you look at things like purchase price, cap rate, these are very specific to funds. And these are essentially the fund's investment thesis, the criteria that they use to evaluate. And we're able to do that automatically, which then allows us to do things like rank deals in terms of which ones the funds should look at first. Also able to create these automated benchmarks. So a big exercise for funds is to find comparables to be able to correctly value a business. And we're able to automate all of that by looking at all of the fund's internal historical data. Typically for a fund to be able to look at all their past deals, they would employ 5 to 10 analysts to go in and do this for each deal. Now they can do it automatically. I'll just go through one more workflow because it's very specific but very interesting that it's such a good use case for generative AI here. So typically funds have to do things like they have a due diligence request list. If any of you have raised Series A or beyond, you probably had to go through this process. But a fund will go through and have a list of about 1,000 questions that they will put in an Excel sheet and send to a founder. The founder then has to go in and fill manually. This process would take anywhere from weeks to months for those really large M&A deals. And we're able to automate all of that. So a fund can simply import a CSV or upload their Excel sheet of questions, and we'll populate it here. We'll answer all of them. We'll check to make sure all the numbers tie across all the different files. And at the end of it, you get a better picture of the business. The founder saves a ton of time, and so they don't have to go through this entire process. And we've essentially closed down that due diligence workflow from maybe months to days. And of course, we have a lot more features that we can talk about. Classic, chat with all your deals and generate investment memos. But I'll save that for another time. Yeah, that's Dilly. So if you have a fund or are just looking to simplify due diligence for yourself, just come reach out.
That's why we invite you guys. Yeah. Onyx, maybe do you want to use anything or do you want?
Yeah, I think it's
Oh, yeah. Okay, so maybe you can say something and then I can get you ready. Oh, there are so many mics. Yeah. Right. Please send me a video. That's fast. Okay. Ready. Okay.
Hello. Awesome. So, yeah, my name is Mernal, and I'm a co-founder and the CEO of Onyx. Onyx is an AI co-pilot for investment bankers and finance teams. And I started my career in investment banking and realized that, as I'm sure most of you know, that investment bankers work really long hours, and a large part of that ends up being because bankers are non-technical. So imagine doing a ton of data analysis and visualization without knowing Python or SQL, and trying to do all of that through really large Excel formulas doesn't create for a good time. And so what we've ended up doing here is basically creating a three-step process. First is we end up having acting as this top integrative layer across your data stack. So investment banks, finance teams, and individuals looking at different types of financial data will often subscribe to 3 to 5 different data sources, such as CapIQ, FactSet, Crunchbase, are sort of the big ones that you can think about in the space. And what we do is we provide a unified UI that connects across all of them and creates a knowledge graph that actually produces a permissioning system which allows you to say, like, hey, for certain types of data, we rely on Bloomberg, certain types of data, we use FactSet, et cetera. And so you can access all of your information very quickly. The cool part about this is the second and third aspect, which is the actual data analysis and visualization. So during my time in investment banking, we often realized that a lot of the workflow ended up being very repetitive and monotonous, and we would create a lot of presentations that would take a lot of time. And so the feedback loop there, you can imagine when you have 2 different VPs, an associate, a managing director, can be a couple of days. And so the cool part about using Onyx is we've been able to get pitch decks that bankers, PE firms, and hedge funds create down from about 3 to 4 days to 3 to 4 hours. And we're going to walk you through a specific example of that here and to show you how this works at a high level. So in this format, we've actually opened up the Onyx platform and said, hey, let's put together a deck. In this specific instance, what I'm just going to do is copy and paste over some sort of comments that a managing director would have actually said to put together to create a deck. So in this case, what's really interesting here is there are 2 types of pages. First is qualitative pages that are more research heavy. So you can imagine like a team page, executive summary pages, and then the second part is the actual data analysis page. And so finance teams will often do various types of analyses on a very repetitive process. So price performance charts, capital allocation pages, valuation pages, and things of that sort. The way Onyx works is in the background, we connect to your data stack, learn sort of what your templates look like, ingest them, and then make it such that you can replicate this process very easily. So in this instance, that's what we've gone ahead and listed out. And within about 10 to 15 seconds, Onyx actually generates slides, as you can see here. This is just me walking through it. So I'll scroll a little bit here. But yeah, so what ends up happening here is, as you can see, we pulled in different types of pages that a firm would have indexed, and we're generative on the structure side. So Onyx actually understands if you ask a bank or an analyst, frankly, hey, I want to put together a certain type of page, let's say like a capital allocation page there. Onyx, having read and understood your full breadth of past precedent workflows, goes ahead and creates pages with the same types of components. And this entire process as an analyst would have probably taken me a couple of different hours, and now can be done within a few minutes. And the other additional part to this is just that it's super easy for a managing director to provide comments, and so you can either iterate directly with Onyx or pass this off to someone on the junior team and take this to the finish line. And so we found a multitude of different use cases right now, given the state of the markets. We have seen a lot of investment bankers are pitching currently, and so if you are now able to pitch 10 to 15 times in a week as opposed to 2 to 3 times, and you keep your win rate the same, then of course you're bringing in more revenue. And so that's been a big hook for us initially, and yeah, we're excited to continue to build in the space and expand to strategic finance teams, corp dev teams, and other finance folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then coming up next, we have Reality Defender, and then they just had a big news. They just released, announced their new fundraising, 15 million by ECDC. And then let's hear how do we actually use AI to fight AI.
And special thanks to Amino, which was one of our first investors when we were still a bit of a science project. So my name is Ben Coleman, co-founder and CEO of Reality Defender. We provide real-time deepfake detection across audio, video, images, and text. Deepfake and generative AI have a lot of really fun, entertaining, and weird use cases, but there's a much darker side. And recent examples include a fake explosion at the Pentagon that led to a $100 billion flash crash in the market. A video of President Zelensky supposedly surrendering to Russia. And then on a more kind of personal level tonight, here's a quick example of what I did while I was sitting there.
Hi, this is Lisa London, Chief Financial Officer at Goodwin. Can you urgently approve the $2 million wire transfer to our corporate partner?
So if you could hear in the back, I made a fake voice of a fake person that supposedly works at Goodwin, approving wire transfer, which again, available to anybody with internet connection can create a fake voice. And among all these things, the danger is that anyone, without being a programmer or an expert in anything, could just go on Google, search for something, create a fake voice, a fake face, etc. And again, I'm still not yet talking about my product, but again, I made this voice really quickly here. Off-the-shelf tools, 11 Labs, made it say whatever I wanted. It would pass any voice print matching. I wrote an article on ChatGPT while I was sitting here as well, talking about deepfakes. And I found some fake faces on the platform, just creates fake faces at scale, whether they're diffusion or GAN-based faces. So who are we? At Reality Defender, we provide an API and web app to allow enterprise and government users to upload and immediately understand whether audio, video, images, or text are real or fake. Here's that supposed explosion of the Pentagon, which we identified in real time as a diffusion-based deepfake. Here we have one of our models identifying with 64% confidence, another one 92% confidence. What this means is we have an ensemble approach, independent models, look for different attributes, as well as a model above models to find more of a binary result. Now that's just a quick example of an image. Let's go to some audio.
Hi, this is a deepfake voice of Ben Coleman. Thanks for being here for my presentation today. All it took to create this audio clip was 20 seconds of my recorded voice and a few snippets of text. It took more time to write the text for this audio clip than it did to actually generate this audio clip.
So again,
That's how easy it is.
again, really simple platform, drag and drop your media files. We also do real-time scanning of phone calls, mostly for investment bank and government clients as well. So use cases for our solution are identifying fake identities, fake voices, fake open source intelligence, fake news articles, fake chats. We also had somebody we interviewed who in the middle of the interview realized they were reading from a ChatGPT based prompt, which we took their voice, converted to text, scanned with our model, and identified them with 99% confidence as being fake. So happy to geek out with anybody. It's a very challenging problem we're trying to solve. We're constantly updating our models on a bi-weekly basis. And thank you to Amino for letting us do the demo.
Of course. Yeah. This is a new kind of like a domain using AI to fight AI. That's very, very interesting. And then it's actually real. They have real revenue, and then banks and also celebrity agency, they're actually looking for a solution like that. So
And we're hiring.
they're hiring. So coming up next, so welcome Ruby, who is my co-host tonight, and then all yours.
Welcome Larry to come back.
Yeah, so for all the panelists listed here, please come to sit here on stage. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruby. I'm a corporate development deal lead at Block, formerly known as Square. So my responsibilities are driving applications, investment, and other strategy projects for Square merchant business and Bitcoin emerging initiative. And today I have the great honor of joining a wonderful group of industry leaders, investors, and entrepreneurs, and we will have a very interesting discussion on Gen AI for fintech, consumer, and merchant space. Before we get started, just a couple housekeeping items. During this panel discussion, please keep it quiet so everyone can listen and focus. If you really need to have a conversation, please move outside of the room. And secondly, at the end of the discussion, we will give you the audience chance to interact and ask questions to the panelists. And finally, if it appears like the volume appears low at the back, just raise your hand so that I'm aware and I can let the panelists increase their volume. Okay, great. So let's kick it off. I know some of the panelists already introduced themselves during the previous demo, but for the ones who don't, how about we do a self-intro for everyone? If you're already intro, you can make it short, just as your name, company, and add a fun fact. But if you haven't, then it's okay to do a longer intro. I'll start with Sue.
I'm Sue from Amino Capital.
Larry, Amino Capital.
Fun fact. What's your fun fact, Sue?
Oh my gosh. Oh, we're Amino Capital. Sometimes people call us Amigo. So we wanted to be your buddy. We don't mind.
Okay, Lauren.
Okay, and I have more than 600,000 followers.
So Lauren is also a TikTok fan. He's an influencer. My dad is also one of his fans. That's how I came to know Laurie 5 years ago, before I even came to know Amino Capital. Next.
Yeah, I'm Dawa. I did the demo. You might remember me. Nap time, we bring Python to your spreadsheet. I don't think it was a fun fact. It's just bragging. So if bragging is allowed,
Yeah.
I've been to more than 120 countries.
Wow, that's a lot.
Are you sure there are that many? Hey everyone, I'm Kabir. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Benepass. We're a fintech company that takes pretty complex and hard to use product benefits and makes it very simple and flexible with a proprietary fintech stack. I didn't demo because while we're not quite a generative AI native company, we have started a bunch of work on kind of building out great experiences with generative AI. Sadly, that is all on localhost on a laptop in Brooklyn right now. So, fun fact, I have a black belt.
Wow. That's impressive.
Fun brag.
Couldn't tell.
Hey guys, Ben Coleman from Reality Defender, Deepfake Detection. Fun fact, I have a 6-year-old, and I tricked him into thinking that math is a game. I'm very worried when he finds out that he's actually learning. But as long as he thinks it's a game, he's learning without realizing it.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Alexander Statnikov. I'm one of general managers at Blog, specifically Square, and I'm also heading go-to-market platform and both AI initiatives. So in terms of fun facts, I'll have two. First of all, I used to be a professor at NYU, specializing in AI, so I'm really excited to travel back here from San Francisco. And another fun fact, I can sit in sauna at 220 degrees for about 1 hour.
Is there any NYU alumni or students? Raise your hand.
Wow.
Wow, quite many. Okay, next one.
Nice. Hey, all. I'm Anand, the co-founder of Billy. My fun fact, so outside of AI, one of my hobbies is VR. So one of my previous gigs was working on the Vision Pro headset at Apple, and I am now a internationally ranked Beat Saber player, if you know Beat Saber from Meta. So yeah, that's what I do inside.
And my name is Bernal. I'm CEO of Onyx. I'm the AI co-pilot for bankers. And my fun fact is, before we started this company and found out that we would be doing this full time, I was going to be a professional pickleball player.
Oh, pickleball player.
Can I add another fun fact?
Yeah,
We
sure.
learned up here that 4 of us are Y Combinator alums.
Yeah, we like YC.
5.
Yeah, we
Wow.
like YC.
So like, actually this event is another reunion for year
Yes.
5. Yeah, last but not least, we also have Alice. She's a machine learning engineer from Square. Alice, do you want to say hi and talk about fun fact about you?
Hi, I'm Alice. I'm a machine learning engineer at Square, and a fun fact is last year I was actually a policy staffer in the Senate working on AI chips and science policy.
Okay, awesome. So let's get started. My first question is curious, what would be the moat for an AI startup? Is it data, large language model, or something else? I'll start with Sue.
Okay, y'all borrow mine. So I think the mode for Amino, because if you were me, and we started Amino with like all the executives, from Facebook, Google, and like Dr. Chu who joined Google year 2000. So only mode for Google is actually data. So data mode and network effect is our theme. So that's why, there, as I mentioned, there was like last quarter is 400,000, projects on Replit calling large language model API. So I think a lot of them will not pan out, but only those ones which has, real customer data, unique data can actually succeed. So again, as much dirty work as you can do, I think that you will actually build a really beautiful data mode.
So data is your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's stand up. So number one, the still pizza in the back.
Thank you for taking care of all.
Yeah, and data is a mode, but in order to get the data, it's a service. So you look at the wonderful company here, they have data because they have a very, very good service. They get the user come back to them, to interact with them, to accumulate data, to accumulate live data. That's a real mode. Of course, behind the real mode is the people. Execution. Not only be able to talk, but be able to get things done. That's easy said than done, but that's the mode. People, data, period.
Thank you, that's very strong.
I don't think there is a mode.
You don't think there is a moat?
Nope.
Really?
No, I think, you already invested in us, so no backseats. But, no, to me, I think AI is, it's often compared to like electricity. It's an enabling technology, and it will create loads of innovation everywhere. But, I don't think it's like, that in itself will safeguard you from competition. Competitors can do the same thing. It's the other thing that has to be remote, not the AI thing.
Yes, that's true. What's your perspective, Alexandra?
Thank you. So I think data is clearly one of the components of the mode. I would also add 3 more. So software, I think it's underappreciated, specifically the algorithms, because everybody's trying to use very common algorithms that use for GenAI, RAG, or existing approaches. So it's kind of get commoditized, but it's forgotten that a lot of nuances in algorithms in terms of explainability, reasoning can create a lot of mode, which requires very substantive investment. Another one is hardware. It really depends on what type of startup you are doing. But you devising specialized chips can also give you very significant competitive advantage. And finally, the most critical, kind of related to the service, where Larry mentioned, is the business model, making sure that we have a large enough DAM and something that's unique that can enable you to sustain, enable you to easily pivot if there is no product market fit. So that's another one.
It's a wonderful answer. Rena, looks like you were trying to. Susan? Sorry, that's for. Yeah, Kabir, I thought you were trying to say something. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
I could have one comment.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think echoing the professor.
Oh, that's
the
your.
former professor's comment. I think you can't discount actual subject matter expertise. I think it speaks to everyone in the audience. I think most of us worked at big companies or banks or Google. Like AI on its own isn't enough. You have to actually know what you're trying to apply it to. Without the subject matter expertise, you still just have a great tool in search of a great problem.
That's a great insight.
Okay, now.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Kabir.
So we've been building a bunch on top of things like GPT-4 and Claude and things like that. And I think one thing that will be important for a while is being able to fit those into a bigger piece of software so that they do what you want, so that you can deal with the fact that, make shit up 10% of the time. Or that, it doesn't do arithmetic very well, or any of that. And so right now, I think getting this to be consistently useful in a practical application is a pretty big mode.
Yeah, definitely. I actually agree with that. Alexandra, I have a follow-up. Is as you are in a mature company, Square, curious how does Square envision its future progression in the AI domain?
So in several ways. So first of all, really for Square and for Block is adopting the principle of customer centricity, be it the customer on the Cash App side or be it the seller on the Square side, and really trying to work around their problems and trying not just to add AI for the sake of AI, but trying to solve specific pain points of customers. So this is very, very important principle that carries through this work. And more specifically, several areas. So trying to improve the experience of sellers for Square side with respect to sales and customer success and different interactions with the product. That's a very, very critical area because usually these things are painful. If somebody has a support issue, how you can interact with the person, how you can quickly resolve this issue. Or if you are exploring products and services at Square, how you can really quickly understand what's it about, because sellers, our customers, they don't have much time. They are on the go. Then another important area is internally unlocking productivity of our developers. This is most big companies with some of their first use cases of generative AI. They try to bring co-pilots, a number of solutions, but go beyond just code generation, looking at the QA, looking at the full life cycle of software development and trying to make it much more efficient. And this way, junior developers can perform better than senior developers in some cases. And one more thing I would just repeat, rethinking the product and how you can add features of product that are driven by generative AI, again, to provide value to our customers. That's another very important area.
Thank you. So to sum, I think what you mentioned is basically do AI not just for the sake of AI, really focus on what your consumer, what your merchants, what your developers really need, and then for their pinpoints to develop the targeted solutions. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit. Our topic today is Gen AI for fintech, consumer, and merchant space. Laurie, curious how you foresee AI shaping the future of merchant space.
I think in the merchant space, it's becoming very crowded. In order to reach the customer, the number one thing is to get your message out, get your brand out. To do that, you have to do the marketing material. Used to be the marketing material, you do a one film, one picture, you can use that for a year. Right now, in this social media age, you literally have to send out advertising every day. In order to do that, of course, every day the message, the image might be a little different, has to be very creative. So in order to do that, you have to use generative AI to create a medium that you can generate new content every day. That's where I think is a trend. You cannot use the same logo, same advertising for the whole year, every day, because on the social media, I have more than 600 followers. I have to send out content almost every other day to keep myself out there. So, personal experience.
So are the content we saw on your media fake?
It's got you there.
Well, probably a reality definer needs to help us identify Larry's fake photos for media content. Okay, that's very interesting. And Sue, how do you think the consumer space will be shaped with Gen AI?
Still consumer?
Consumer. So I think what I asked Larry is actually for the merchant. He talked more a little bit for the consumer and also merchant. But yeah, up to you. You can combine.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of, you understand, like right now, it's really downturn, right? So a lot of the LP, they have over allocation problem because their previous investment, especially in late stage, has difficulty to actually liquid. So, but what we have been seeing is we have a new break, new LPs, and they're coming in, they're like, I'm so excited. I want to invest in funds who are focusing on generative AI. And also, I have my cash ready. We want to invest in early stage generative AI companies because we've seen, because some of them were in e-commerce, some of them in consumer goods, and then they were like, if this company, they can ask questions to the chatbot, and chatbot can call API to certain merchants, and then they bypass us. So my e-commerce site, my product, nobody care about us, nobody care about my e-commerce site anymore. So that's why we have to be relevant. We want to invest in this field. So that's why, I have so much confidence. Generative AI is real.
Thank you. Any comments from the founder want to add? Any perspective?
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about this in sort of like the finance space. I think there, it really just allows for execution to be really done quite well. And what that ultimately does is just buy you a lot of time, and time is everything in the space like that. You can imagine when PowerPoint and Excel first came out, that really sort of accelerated a lot of the quality of the work that was being put out there and the type of analysis that was being done. And frankly, it was due to the fact that that productivity increase was enough to propel a lot of people that were thinking about these problems to move forward in such a way. And Gen AI presents that same opportunity where execution can be done much faster, much better in a space like this, and allows for additional time to be spent thinking about bigger problems that are more important and crucial to your workflows.
You're actually guessing my mind because my next question is fintech related. So my next question is for the fintech space, Alexander and Nicole, could be very curious, what type of applications do you think consumers or merchants will benefit the most from Gen AI?
So, couple of applications just to be original compared to what I mentioned. Definitely, on the risk management side and protecting customers from bad actors. This is very, very important. And then on the other pure dimension of fintech, just to improve the overall experience, interacting with banking, with payments, making it much more easy, as we discussed, like also more personalized, something that solves your needs and jobs to be done.
If I could add something that consumers will not benefit from, which is just the ease of fraud.
Yeah, we can tell from Laura's concept, right?
And it's not just within systems. I'm a block user, and you guys have fantastic security provisioning. But just as humans, being able to trust what you see or hear, getting phone calls from your loved ones, claiming they're in trouble, you need to wire money, seeing things on the news that might not be on the news, but you're forwarded, and the ability to do this on such massive scale. Before, I wanted to hack anyone in the room and one by one, but now using automated tools, I could do it against everybody and make it incredibly personalized. So whereas before, whether it's fraudulent phone calls or fraudulent emails and phishing, were just kind of one message to everybody, now using generative AI, you could customize them to everybody, making it much more difficult for educated folks in this room to detect real versus fake, but in a more scary way, our parents, our grandparents, who probably are not as secure as all of us, they have no protection at all.
Thank you for adding to the risk side. Kabir, wonder,
Yeah,
impact side.
on a happier note, on the consumer fintech side, I think generative AI will be great for handling complexity. There's a bunch of complex workflows and things that happen in consumer AI or consumer fintech. You could take the example of you get your credit score and Credit Karma. How the hell do I make this better? I literally don't know. With a generative AI product that has access to all the data that a Credit Karma or something has, you can take that and you can boil it down into something I can understand. Like, don't open any new credit cards for the next 3 months. More than that, there are flows like in our own product where you have to submit documentation and say, what is this for, and kind of other information. And as we're building out the generative AI proof of concept, I was uploading a document and I was like, I don't know what it's for, you figure it out. And it did it for me. And I think that is going to be a huge use case in consumer fintech. It's just making these things simple and understandable.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for sharing for that. So we talked about the fintech space and also the risk space. Curious for the B2B side, once you get Dove and Anna's perspective, what areas will be fully transformed by Gen AI?
Yeah, I can start. I think there's a meta point here, especially for B2B. A lot of times when people think of Gen AI, they think of ChatGPT writing Twilight fan fiction, pages of text. There's a really strong application here to Kabir's point of going from complexity to essentially to structured output. Like the large language models that we have today, they're able to read a lot of text, take in all that context, and spit out very specific information. That's just capability that was really hard to create before. And so on the B2B side, you can think of this as everything from people looking at giant sales proposals or memos in our case, and being able to distill all of that information into a few specific lines, specific numbers, information that you would actually want to get out of these large documents. And so there's sort of a converse way to look at it where, a lot of times people think of generative AI as creating these large documents. It also can create, not only create those documents, but also condense them. And I think within B2B, a lot of it in fintech and financial services, there's a lot of information to go through, and to be able to condense all of that is a superpower, honestly, that a lot of companies are starting to explore now.
Good point.
Yeah, I think there's a wonderful irony to that, though, right? Because one future is where it's the robot that writes these enormously long documents, and they can write much longer because it's only other robots that will read it. And if I send you an email, I say, hey, send them an email about this, this, and this, and it becomes a very long email, and you never read the email because your robot just puts it back into the sentence that I just instructed my robot to write you about. And especially, I think, especially in legal, and this is not working. Yeah. I should turn it on. I mean, technology. No, but especially in legal and in finance, you could easily imagine that the amount of documents that we're going to produce is just going to dramatically increase because it's so easy to do that. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And so one thing I heard that, before we had word processors, documents were a lot shorter too, because anytime you had to update them, somebody had to type them out, and that was just such a painful process. And ever since you can just, send it to the printer, documents become a lot longer.
Thank you. That's very interesting on the
Just want to add a little bit of this perspective. I think that I have a little bit different point of view with respect to documents. I think that the amount of unique information stays, but you can leverage it to create a number of documents. So it's a different problem rather than having multiplicity of documents and unknown unique information. Here, you can produce documents on the fly, but the information stays, and you can save this information in different embeddings, and that's how computer can exchange this thing in a more binary representation. But yeah, you can produce documents very quickly, but the core information doesn't grow that much fast.
Sure, that's on a theoretical level true, but in a world where, you know, we have a legal system, and what really counts is whether you can find it back in the legal document that you signed and never read because only your robot read it and pointed out the things that you. So on some theoretical idea, it would be wonderful if robots would just exchange embeddings and go like, hey, this is the embedding that represents the contract that we agreed on, and you know that's the point in this n-dimensional space that we're talking about. That would be wonderful. In practice, we're just going to have those documents because that's how the legal system works.
It's great to hear a different perspective. Curious from the investor's perspective, Larry, what areas of Gen AI applications you think haven't been explored much yet?
That's a new question. It's not on the list. Just kidding.
Did I give you a list?
Yeah. But, yes. Actually, it's a very, as investors, normally we don't predict the future. We try to listen and learn from entrepreneurs. Normally investors sound very knowledgeable because we learn so much from so many people. Actually, at this point, we're really looking at is the team, the wonderful team, the execution. In terms of good or bad, and I think technology itself is neutral. Technology never make the society better or worse. It just make the pace of life faster and more tiring. So there's no right or wrong. It's up to us. It's up to the people in front of you here to make technology useful to benefit the human society. That's it. Because there are always bad guys. Not here. There are always bad guys using technology. That's why we have a reality defender. As for the future, I think there are so much things we can imagine. We are looking right now more for the people who can provide service. It doesn't matter hardware, software, medical, financial service. Whatever service you can provide, then you can accumulate data, then you can utilize data to provide AI services.
Yeah, thank you. So there are a lot of different services, application right now in many spaces. So curious, you think which areas haven't been explored much yet?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of large language model companies, and they actually raise so much money. And then I talked to some of them, and then there are definitely challenges. And I think for Amino, so the future of AI, we define as data plus machine learning, meaning you have the top-notch team, as Larry just mentioned. And the third is actually domain expertise. So you have to have a really viable business model. Like Tesla, they're selling cars, you know, they're selling something, right? So that's why GM, you know, they actually acquired Cruise for $1 billion because Tesla became, you know, back then was like 2016 was third largest automaker in the US. And then, you know, GM panicked and they have to acquire Cruise for $1 billion. And then, you know, you have to sell something. So I think right now, you know, as Larry mentioned, from a lot of the large language model company, they eventually, we believe, is going to be a cloud business. So probably going to be a feature of cloud services. And another thing for the company that raise a lot of money is those companies that actually have Fortune 500 company as their customer, and they have beautiful demos, but they have a difficulty to convince those huge companies, you know, to actually give them data. So if those companies who, that's why, you know, for Amino, we focus on companies that actually, you know, one of the sector in generative AI, we focus on companies that actually have PLG SaaS business model. You know, I think 2 years ago, the largest hype was actually PLG. So back then, it was like, if this company is not PLG and no investor will invest in them, which
PLG is product-led growth.
yeah, so exactly. Like Zoom, and Larry invested in Zoom year 2011.
Thank you. So since from your angle, it's like cloud computing and B2B services haven't been explored much yet. And okay. And also, so there was some other idea from other VC. I just want to get quick opening from you guys. Like some area they mentioned are like AI financial advisor, AI financial assistant, AI companion, or mental therapy. These areas. Curious if any of the founders think any of those haven't been explored much yet, or do you have an idea?
I mean, I can speak to some of the challenges there that have not been explored yet because we face them day to day. When we started our company, we found data sets to use and thought it was great and realized that doesn't actually represent the real world, so we make our own data sets from scratch. Any spaces like the ones you mentioned that actually make decisions on life or death, even more so than cybersecurity and fraud, their data sets matter in life or death. And the challenge for those industries, let alone all of ours, is the quality and distribution and the dimensionality and the lack of bias or lack of racism within the data sets. I haven't seen anyone solve that yet. So if you need to build data sets, you have to make sure you're doing it yourself and checking them and everything else. I think there's an opportunity for making all of us into a customer if you're able to make better, more broadly distributed, more real-world-ish data sets to use across whether it's healthcare or cybersecurity or others.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wish there will be a solution exist in the future to make that easy. Okay, so let's shifting gears a little bit. We talked about the future outlook of AI, and AI space is so hot right now. I'm sure a lot of the audience is thinking about starting one or joining one. We have lots of people here. Curious, how many of you are actually starting or doing an AI startup right now? Raise your hand if you're building one. Wow, a lot of founders. And raise your hand if you're working in a company that is focusing on AI. Wow, even more. So with that, let's move that to the next topic. What are some of your advice for AI companies right now? The things they should pay attention to? I'll start with you, Sue.
Yeah, I think there are just as we mentioned earlier, like data, machine learning, and also domain expertise. So you can actually start from any of these three angles. We've seen, company that actually started with like machine learning. So PhD, and they wanted to do consulting at the very beginning. If I were them, I would also start a consulting company. Why not? Even though, right now they're not a PLG SaaS, but eventually, right? So we believe in people, even though, eventually it will all come to the same. If you want to be a tech giant, you want to be the next Google or, a tech giant next Square, and then you have to actually start somewhere. So I would say, no matter your professor, you have domain expertise and you just need an engineer, or you have a really good, product demo, and then your company exploded from three of this angle, we talk to us. And then I think, we invest in people that actually can execute on the idea. For early stage investor, we do, early stage before you pre-product. Larry invested in Chime Bank in 2013, and then I think they were pre-product, pre-revenue. So it's never too early to talk to investors.
So data and people will be important. Anything else?
Yeah, so one of the things we look at is the dirty work. In Chinese they say, 又能睡地板，又能当老板。Some of you may understand, but it's a dirty work. In order to get things started, you really have to do a lot of dirty work to get your user interested, how the server started. If you look at all the good companies, all the AI companies, for example, DoorDash, the founders go to deliver food by themselves to figure out what's going on. Airbnb, they want to host home to take picture to kickstart their business. It's all about calm down, do some dirty work, get your business, get the ball rolling. That's very, very difficult to do. But AI as a technology is there, it's easy to talk, easy to use, but without dirty work, without going to the customer, do your own homework. We're implementing a system in Amino Capital. We have over 10,000 companies, including all of you. We have all of your information, of course, on LinkedIn, not on your private life. But we actually do a lot of dirty work to manually enter a lot of information. Then about your competitors, about all the founders. Then we use Google, we use Twitter to follow your company, to follow any news you have. But those information initially get into it by dirty work, by hands. We're entering a lot of information by hands. But once your company name is there, your competitor information is there, then we can use Google, use Twitter to analyze what's new, what's the new news, from your company, is anything new every day from your competitor. We know sometimes better than the founder themselves because our system grabs their competitors' information every day. But initially, we do a lot of dirty work. We use a lot of people to enter those information by hand. So AI is good, data is good, but to get things started, founders, teams have to be able to get down to do the dirty work, do manual work. That's the real moat, real moat.
So to translate what Laurie initially said in Chinese, that is basically meaning if you're a founder, you should work like a dog at the beginning. Like really try very hard and not afraid to do all the dirty work. So curious for the founders, what are some of, you previously talked about the challenges, but what are some of the business and technical pitfalls you've encountered during your own startup journey?
I think there's a challenge or a fallacy that you could make anybody into a startup team member, and for those who've worked at big companies or startups, they're just different worlds completely. And I'm definitely guilty of that. And so one of the biggest pitfalls early on is picking the wrong person for the right stage or the right person for the wrong stage of the company. Given that it's not just the founder doing the dirty work, but everyone else, and it's you're doing the work of like 10 people. You're doing sales, HR, compliance, legal, insurance, every other daily emergency that comes about, and you get home and suddenly you have 400 emails to deal with as well. And it doesn't get better; it actually gets worse. So I think that also echoes on another challenge, which is just not knowing how to prioritize. There's not enough time to do everything. And if you try to do everything, you'll do it all badly. So.
Prioritization, always prioritize. Yeah, feel free to share.
I mean, I'd add to that, yes, when you start a company, you're doing every job, HR, sales, maybe writing code. And as the company grows, it can be very difficult to let go of that and stop being involved on a very detailed level with any or all of those things, because it's your baby, and whoever you hired isn't doing this the exact way you would, and you just have to get used to it, because otherwise you're not going to grow beyond the founding team. So.
Yeah, or even if they are doing it worse than you are, right? That's still better than you doing everything.
But is it though?
Or Rina, do you want to share any?
Yeah, I think as founders that are still on the stage of doing everything ourselves, I think a lot of it comes down to prioritization, and I think the biggest learning for all of us that went through YC and just generally in startups is the users comes first. So whatever priorities you have, whether it's HR, payroll, bookkeeping, your co-founder's check didn't go through this week and they don't know how they're going to pay their rent. Users need to come first, and so for us that meant like coming to New York, visiting our users' offices in person every day, and for every startup it means something different, but I think the biggest thing is just making sure you prioritize users over everything else.
Yeah, I would echo all the comments that have been said so far. Just two things is like one is compartmentalization, which I think a lot of people touched on is because you are doing so much all the time, it's one of those things where if you are not able to compartmentalize, everything just becomes like a lot, and that's when things get hairy. And the second part, which sort of sums up, I think, a lot of what has been said in the last like 5 to 10 minutes is, at YC they always told us to do things that don't scale, which often sounds counterintuitive, but is, I think, exemplified by the story of like the Airbnb founders and DoorDash founders of actually getting out and going and delivering stuff by hand. And it's that sort of mentality, I think, that really kind of, at least even for us, was key in getting our first few customers, just by being available 24/7 and whatnot. And so it seems counterintuitive, but is one that we've so far found definitely pays off.
Thanks for sharing. If I summarize 3 things, I think it's pretty much always prioritize on your work, focus on getting your people, and certainly always do everything for your customer, even if at the beginning it's not scale. Okay, so we also have a lot of people working in big companies doing AI. So Alexander, curious from your perspective, what are some advice you want to give to the folks here in the big company on how to launch successful AI projects?
Sure. So for big companies, again, those points mentioned previously, like having strong customer empathy and again understanding the problem, which can be often reflected and should be reflected in product vision. That there is no clarity of what we want to achieve and why we want to achieve and how it impacts the customer and helps the customer. Second item I would say is also design vision, especially if you talk about complex products and really making sure it works well, there's great experience. And the last one, depending on the size of the company, but even for small companies, having enough significant expertise, having some centers of excellence or some groups that can tackle, especially for generative AI, something that we find out ourselves that you need to have a critical body of professionals of machine learning AI engineers who can go much deeper where the software engineers would do and can address issues with respect related to security, for example, with prompt injection, with data leakage, data contamination in a very robust and meaningful way.
Thanks for sharing from a team leader or organization leader perspective in big company. Curious for Alice, because you're a machine learning engineer, what's your advice for people from your own frontline engineering hands-on experience?
Yeah, I think we're still in the early days ourselves. But I think one challenge is definitely with generative AI, there's a really broad base of potential applications for our retail sellers. And so many different product teams are now interested in using generative AI. Whereas before we had a central team, kind of like a center of excellence sort of model, where one team did all the ML features. Now it's a bit more about upskilling other teams to have literacy with generative AI, understand the pitfalls, and address those risks. And so that's involved a lot more cross-functional work of getting ML to educate the rest of the organization, work with product and design almost at an equal level to actually put out projects that have a lot of different stakeholders. And so I think doing all of that to sort of herd all of the cats to get them on board with leveraging this new technology is a little bit difficult in a larger organization that isn't used to deploying such advanced technologies in seller-facing products.
Yes, getting like cross-functional alignment is always taking efforts in bigger organizations. So there are a lot of companies competing in the AI space right now. So let's talk about the one that will eventually stand out of the competition. There is actually an old metaphor that you sell shovels in a gold rush. Curious, who you think will be the big winner? Gold miners or shovel sellers? Sue, what's your thoughts on that question?
I think there is definitely no ultimate winner. Like even for a company like Jaspers, they are very much established, but there are definitely a lot of company that actually can compete with them, so they are getting revenues. I've known some companies, including the ones that we invested, they have never raised Series A and their ARR is over 10 million, and they're doing exact same thing like Jasper's. But is Jasper a good company? Of course, it's a good company because they are established. So there is a huge space for everybody, as long as you can go up and then do the real thing. And then if you look at traditional SaaS, right, like Salesforce is a great company, but their market share is under maybe like 28%. But if you look at Zoom, PLG SaaS, it's not 100%. You still have Team, you still have a Google Meet. So it's space for everybody. Even though you're established, you have to keep pushing out new features. Like Facebook used to say, move fast, break things, especially in PLG SaaS. It's not relationship based. I'm not saying there's no need for MLG or SLG, sales like growth. Like for Zoom, right? If you are a large customer, like if you're a hospital, if you're education group, like schools, and then for them, they actually counts for over 5% of the revenue. They still put account manager for those organizations, of course. But in the very beginning, I would say it's space for everybody. But PLG SaaS is still much like Zoom has over 40% of the market share. Yeah.
Actually, I do have follow-up. So yeah, I understand, like you said, it's a big market. But as you previously mentioned, there are companies focused on computing or large language model. Will those companies eventually have larger market TAM compared to the one just doing AI applications?
Of course they have a chance. Of course they have a chance. As I said, a lot of the large language model, they could eventually become a feature of cloud business. However, they could actually $30 million, much bigger valuation than obvious. So they panicked. They were like, it's not fair. It's my API. And then, you know what they did? They actually rolled out an app which is called Photo Time. From an API company, pivotal to a product company, they have to give away share to a designer. It's not easy. You're a tech company, and then now you're a product company. They have to give away share, but that paid off because they were before the product they actually rolled out is called Photo Time. It was before Google Photo. It was before Google Photo. Google Photo was such a big hit. We have a lot of LP who are executive at Facebook, Google, some other company. They came to Amino. They were like, "Do you have a company that are doing exactly the same thing like Google Photo?" We were like, Photo Time. And then next thing you know, Photo Time was acquired by Jeff Bezos. And not just the Photo Time, the product now is pivotal to the Amazon Family Album. Yeah, and also recognition API was renamed as Amazon AWS Recognition API that a lot of people now using. So what I'm saying is your API company doesn't mean like you cannot become a product company. It's all about work, yeah.
So I think you mentioned large company. That's actually my next question is, there is another opening that incumbents like Google, Amazon, Meta of the world eventually will win the AI arms race. So curious, Alexandra, for big companies, what do you think are some of the advantages they have in the AI competition?
I think the advantages is what we discussed. They clearly have a lot of consumer data, which is a strong mode. They have access to top talent. They also have access to compute and all necessary platforms. So it's naturally easy for them. So they will clearly be winning some shares, but they may get disoriented from the real customer problems and kind of moving forward on inertia, and this creates opportunities for innovative startups to grasp problems that are kind of blind spot for these big companies, and get in the role and also win.
Helpful, yeah. And then turning another round, what about smaller companies, small size company? What do you think are the advantage you have compared to big ones?
I could take a shot. I think like echoing what you said, agility is the one advantage that small companies have. The ability to ship stuff into production without going through like 3 separate sets of code reviews. Over time, hopefully that would compound into just faster movement, which means better features, happier users, and incumbents, they can, especially the really large ones, the like Googles, the Metas of the world, they can only go after opportunities that seem like $100 million to $1 billion opportunities on the face of it. I think startups have a real opportunity to actually go after markets that might not seem as big initially, but that are growing and that grow with the market. So I think a lot of companies in our generation are sort of betting on that to be able to grow with the market, to be able to grow with the capabilities of the technology, and then hopefully one day every startup wants to be an incumbent. So that's where everyone ends up.
It's very helpful. And curious, Alice, as you previously worked in small startup and also now at Square, what's your opinion comparing the big versus smaller one in the AI computation?
Let's see. I'm really enjoying being at a big company now. I think for the reasons that Alexander was alluding to, which is just having access to a lot of resources where I can focus on just solving kind of a very specific seller problem with machine learning. I think previously as a founder, as a lot of people here have mentioned, you're kind of torn between a lot of things. Might be challenged to like find product market fit. I think at an established place like Square, we have years of seller interviews and a huge laundry list of things that people have requested for us. Where now as the tooling evolves, it's easier to find solutions that can be solved with technology. It's very clear value add to some of our sellers. And so I think operating in a less ambiguous environment with a lot of resources of a large company has been a good experience.
Thank you. Turning to the next question. So on AI application, there is horizontal platform. There is also vertical specialized solutions. Alexander, from your perspective, which one do you think will eventually be more scalable? The horizontal ones or vertical specialized ones?
I think vertical, or combination of vertical, because that's where you really deliver the value. You go deep and solve the use case. It's much less commoditized. If it's just purely horizontal, it's much easier to reproduce, and also the go-to-market for it becomes much harder. Just to give example, more on the technology side, if you think about just different generic AI platforms, there are a lot of horizontal platforms, and who are the customers of those? This may be data scientists or machine learning engineers. This will not lead to high contract values. You don't know how to sell those, and they have a lot of tooling on their own. But if you solve specific business problems and solve it really well, you have a significant opportunity, and you can keep solving them and unlocking this value and helping the respective business to succeed. Then it works much better.
Do any of the panelists disagree? Anyone think horizontal is actually?
I always like to disagree, so.
Go ahead.
I think this is the classic answer approach. But if you look at how remarkably well ChatGPT itself works against a lot of these vertical players, right? We mentioned Jasper. Jasper is a great company, but at the same time, if you want some tweets or you want something written and you just ask ChatGPT directly, it works really well. And the same even for within OpenAI, right? Their code generation stuff is great. If you really need it, ChatGPT itself works out of the box really well. So that is, I think, the horizontal player that still dominates a lot of the things out there.
All right, just to reply, I think if you look at the revenues of OpenAI, they try to specialize. They try to go for enterprises and develop specific tooling. So to some extent, they're also verticalizing because there are so many free apps that are emerging and open source models, and they want to go deeper. They want to provide, for example, easier fine-tuning services for the companies who cannot afford to do it. So to some extent, I'm also seeing this verticalization happen differently, more in the technology space, because that's the sector where they're playing. Because the value, like just having something, it diminishes relatively quickly, because it can be, it just becomes commoditized. So like it may matter of a couple of years when it's much easier to people figure out how to run Claude and Llama and Falcon, all these better models to give comparable answers.
So horizontal platforms are trying to target verticalized customers and provide vertical solutions. Okay. Any reaction, or do you?
Oh, well, I mean, I think that people see that verticalization would be better for the margins. That's your point, but it doesn't mean that it will also be the case, right? We could drift to a situation where open source models and retraining them becomes available for everybody, and getting those verticals up and running and competing against that is going to be very hard. So, I think we'll have to see, but I'm just generally impressed by how far the horizontal approach has come so far.
Yeah, just one historical example, especially from AI, is that maybe 10, 15 years ago, there were almost no platforms, and what was available from Python was insufficient. And companies like DataRobot emerged and H2O emerged, and they tried to provide different capabilities for AI. But as the open source community has evolved, they kind of they had to pivot either to provide some type of auto modeling experience at least. But this was a very clear example, at least for me, that horizontal, and specifically in the technology components of this horizontal platform, they lost the value, because you can use clouds, you can use SageMaker, you just pay for compute. They try to use the vehicle to sell the compute, and same with Azure and Vertex, and this kind of in my view, especially on the technology side, it's clear that you have to go very deeply to solve the customer problems, because technology is always emerging, always evolving, but there are always exceptions.
Yeah, definitely. There is always exception. And I think Alexander also mentioned some concerning trends for OpenAI. Actually, we talked a lot about the good things about AI. So for the concerning part, actually traffic to OpenAI recently have gone down for several months. And there is also many people say AI can't solve real business problem. 90% of AI today is for entertainment, or for problem that consumer or business may not have a real demand for. Larry, what's your view on that?
That's a very good question. Actually, most of the technology, if you see the trend is real or not, you want to see if the consumer want to use it. If you remember, when we talk about the image search, right? It started because the engineer at Google want to look at a beautiful woman's picture, right? Dr. Hui Kan Zhou started Google search because Google engineers want to see Jennifer Lopez's dress, right? There was a picture there, a special dress. Also, a lot of people want to see Huanqiuyunshi. There's an actress there. Of course, it's a Chinese lady, right? Zhang Ziyi. So a lot of the people in U.S. want to see Zhang Ziyi's photo. So that's why, that's how the Google photo search gets started. Same thing with the social media. People look for boyfriend and girlfriend. That's how it gets started. The AR, especially the VR, didn't take off 5 years ago during the hype. We didn't invest because one of my partners says, nobody even look at pornography using VR. The result is not good. So if consumers don't like it, forget about it. That's not a real trend. Today, why generative AI, everybody like it? Because students want to write papers. So real has to be a consumer need. If there's a real need, if you do visual things, if nobody wants to look at that, boys don't look at beautiful girls with that tool is useless. So consumer need. One thing I want to address here is, just before everybody goes, is the CEO here are hiring. Amino, we are investing. So if you, before you go, talk to the people here because they are hiring. we are investing. Your founders talk to us. It's not late. It is AI is just the very beginning because digitization is the beginning. Every year, we generate digital content doubles. Just imagine, anything doubles every year. We're just very beginning. You learn anything about math, the exponential curve, you always look at today is the beginning. Generative AI, opportunities, job, startup, this is just the beginning. You are not late. Don't worry about it. You remember Bill Gates says 64K is enough. 64K memory is enough. That's what Bill Gates said. 100 years ago, the director of Bureau of Patent Office in the U.S. says people have invented everything already. At the patent office, we don't have much work to do in the future. That's the director of the Bureau of U.S. Patent Office. Today, generative AI, digitization, compared with future, we are at the very beginning. Opportunity is huge. So I'm very excited to be here today. And sorry, this is something to use generative AI to stop these funds.
Thank you very much. That's a very wonderful insight. Like basically to get product market fit, really focus on customers' demand and then to design your solutions. So with time consideration, I'm going to enter into a lightning round, which I will just ask you short questions that you can answer in a few words. My first question is for founders and Alexander, if you were to start another AI startup today, what business do you want to build?
Okay, I can. So obviously it will be something that with respect to the business use case will be vertical, would be adding value, going very deeply to solving the core problem. If you ask me from the technological considerations, I would try to focus on advancements of AI for reasoning, because this is, I think, an opportunity that's where generative AI doesn't do well. So far, a lot of these capabilities are just like smart way to summarize. But reasoning, I think it's really next frontier. So and if you connect these two, if you connect going very deeply, specific like solving the customer's problem in a specific sector, in a specific vertical, and augment it with reasoning capabilities on top of the plain vanilla GPT, that I think will be a winning combination.
Thank you. So reminder for the answer, only 1 to 2 sentences. So my second question, sorry, it's actually related to the first, is there an AI solution you wish existed to address your own problem?
Yes, that was going to be the startup I talked about. Yes, one sentence. Everyone's building large language models. To your point, having very specific tasks that you're solving, business problems, is important. And so if someone builds a model distillation, smaller models that can be fine-tuned for specific tasks, that would be very useful for us. And if anyone's building that, let me know.
Actually, you almost stole my answer to this question, sorry, because I was reflecting at blog, what we don't have, like we don't have this service that could quickly create, fine-tune and design for the tasks models. We have to figure out how to do it, and if it was just like if you could do it end-to-end to produce models for different tasks for the specific data and make it also internally hosted, would be great.
Okay. Next question is, can anyone recommend a book, article, or podcast related to AI you found very helpful? Reina, since you are thinking.
It's not AI specific, but I found The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek is always a good read, especially in the space, just because I think it's really easy to get caught up with quick wins and treat a lot of smaller problems as sort of like end all be all to your company and whatnot. And I think it's just keeping like separating the forest from the trees is always a good thing to keep in mind.
Can you repeat the name of the book?
Yeah, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek.
Okay, thank you. Last question. Name one favorite AI startup. Name one favorite AI app you can't live without.
Nap time.
Good answer. Nap time. Anything else? Oh, ChatGPT, yeah, we all use that. Okay, great. I think that's mostly it for our discussion. Wonder if we want to do a photo time
Yeah,
or
we should do a photo, and then I really appreciate all the panel, Ruby and everyone. A lot of you guys, my personal friend, and then attention is all you need. So basically, you give us so much attention. Thank you so much.